When Lib told me that she thought I had Asperger's, she gave me a book to read called A Very Light Diagnosis of Asperger's. In that book, the author told his story of receiving a diagnosis later in life, and he very much encouraged others to pursue diagnosis. I am so thankful that I read that and that Lib helped me find a good neuropsychologist. Receiving diagnosis helps to ward off any doubt. Everyone is able to process exactly what they are dealing with. A plan to move forward becomes possible. Hi, I'm Steve.
And I'm Lib.
And together we're Lib and Steve.
As I began the process of finding a reputable neuropsychologist, I was surprised how challenging it was to find someone who will take on an adult for diagnosis. But don't let this stop you. Be persistent. I have never talked to anyone who never found anyone. There is a neuropsychologist out there for your situation. And for us, this was 4.5 years ago, so it may be easier now. Steve, can you share what you felt as you considered going through a 7-hour test to find out if you were on the spectrum?
Actually, by the time the test was scheduled, I was already convinced that all the chaos and confusion that dogged our lives was due to living with undiagnosed Asperger's. Going through the testing and getting an official diagnosis was done more for all the haters and conspiracy theorists as to why our family was such a mess than it was for me, though I did want to know at least a little.
So, can you describe what the test was like?
The test was about 7 hours of psychological questionnaires, relational questionnaires, personality profiles, test of mental acuity, problem solving, and intellectual puzzles. There were a few tests that measured if people were telling the truth or joking and being sarcastic. I simply had no clue. I was physically and emotionally drained after the testing.
So it will take some time to adjust and process your diagnosis. You know, when you go decades not knowing about something as significant as this, it can be traumatic, but it's also a relief. Steve, can you talk a little bit about the year of processing that you went through?
As an Aspie, processing anything with deep emotional and psychological implications will take time, a long time. I had all sorts of questions like, how could this have happened? Why me? How could a loving God have allowed this? Is there anything I could have done differently? What are the implications for my kids? You mean, if I would have done 100 things different in 100 different ways, we'd be back in the same spot?
Next week, we will talk about the benefits of therapy after you receive a diagnosis, another high recommendation of ours. Steve, I think it'll be good to reiterate that if any of this is to move forward, it is up to the neurotypical partner to step forward and keep it moving. Can you talk about how it is that Asperger partner is not able to take care of details to procure a diagnosis?
It's not an Aspie is not capable of doing this, but they probably wouldn't. Especially if they are already convinced that they were on the spectrum, and might conclude, what point is there in wasting a day to only be told what I already know? There's that resistance thing. Also, Aspies are not good at executive function, and this requires a decision that would put them out of their routine. Aspies probably wouldn't initiate the appointment. Sorry, just the way it is. But those of you who live with an Aspie know this already.
Cassandra's, again, you are heroic. Give yourself a hug. Your journey becomes one of learning to love yourself well and to know how much God loves you. That is how you get strong. You are a powerful person and hope is on the way.
Remember, our breakthrough makes a way for your breakthrough. Please like us and hit the subscribe button.